At 35,000 feet, as the cabin crew hands you a neatly packed tray, you can't help but notice something peculiar about the food. It's not the appearance nor the effort put into its preparation, but the taste. Something's just off. So it's a phenomenon as old as commercial aviation itself, and yet it continues to baffle passengers to this day. So why does airplane food taste so different? My name is Joseph Kabulu, and welcome to Flight Realities, where today we will dive into the science, history, and unique quirks of in-flight dining. In the early days of aviation, flying was an adventure reserved for the elites. Picture the 1920s, small noisy planes without pressurization and meals, a luxury no one expected. So by the 1930s, however, airlines started offering food to create a more enticing experience. These were simple meals, cold sandwiches, coffee, maybe a slice of cake, but as aviation advanced, so did the ambition of the airlines.
Here at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, American Airlines prepares up to 15,000 meals a day, now with the help of robots, for more than 800 flights daily. The airline just built this 214,000 square foot facility that features more automation to keep up with demand and to minimize catering delays, as the number of people traveling breaks new records, and globally, demand is expected to double by 2040.
We have some of the highest load factors we've ever had in the history of American. And so we wanted to build the next generation of catering facility that would grow with us.
Food service on domestic airlines has drastically changed in recent years.
Airplane food is known for being horrible, but airlines do carry a lot of people and they carry them around the world on sometimes flights that can top 8, 12, sometimes 14 hours, and those passengers have to eat.
Nearly 3 million passengers fly every day in the U.S. Post-pandemic, airlines have seen an increase in passengers buying up to premium seats, putting pressure on airlines to offer better food options and more of them.
By the 1950s and 1960s, airline meals became symbols of status. Fine china, champagne, lobster, these meals weren't just food, they were an experience. Fast forward to today, and the glamour of in-flight dining has largely disappeared, especially in economy class. What remains is a logistical and culinary challenge that few industry face. So cooking for thousands of passengers across multiple time zones and altitudes requires not only skill, but also understanding of science. So let's explore why your taste buds behave so differently up in the air.
Ever look at the beverage cart on a plane and see it piled high with tomato juice? It's not a common juice like orange or apple. So why are so many people drinking it in flight? Put simply, your taste changes while you're in the air, and there's a biological reason for that. If you grab a bite before your flight, you probably have an idea of what it will taste like. But once you're in the air, your sense of taste isn't the same as it is on the ground. A lot of factors on the plane are all coming together to suppress your sense of smell, which makes up a large portion of our sense of taste. Think back to the last time you had a cold. Remember how you couldn't taste anything because your nose was clogged up? When you have a weakened sense of smell, your perception of taste is reduced. So your in-flight nose is similar to your nose when you have a cold, but hopefully with less phlegm. Let's start with the cabin, which is extremely dry. Drier than some deserts dry. The dry cabin dries out your nasal passages, which means your taste buds become less perceptive. But that's not the only part of the cabin suppressing your sense of taste. The low cabin pressure actually decreases the levels of oxygen in your blood, which means your olfactory receptors, the part of your nervous system that responds to smells, become less sensitive, which actually weakens your sense of smell. But it's not just the environment inside the cabin that's affecting your senses. The noise coming from the engine isn't helping either. A 2010 study tested people's sense of taste both inside and outside a simulated plane cabin. The researchers found sensitivity to sweet and salty food was reduced by 30% while in the cabin. And that weakened sense of taste can cause a lot of problems for airline caterers.
The first thing to know is that the cabin environment plays a massive role. Airplanes are pressurized to mimic conditions at around 8,000 feet above sea level. So at this altitude, the lower air pressure reduces oxygen levels in your blood, which in turn dulls your sense of taste and smell. So think about it. Smell contributes up to 80% of what we perceive as taste. So when that's muted, food can seem bland and one-dimensional. Humidity also takes a nosedive in the cabin. With low level as low as 20%, the dry air dries out the mucous membranes in your nose and mouth. This makes it even harder for you to fully enjoy the flavors of your meal. Add that to the constant background noise, the engines hum at around 85 decibels, which studies suggest can suppress sweet and salty taste while making crunchy textures more noticeable. Faced with these challenges, airlines have had to adapt. Most meals are prepared on the ground, partially cooked and then reheated during the in-flight. This process alone can alter the taste and texture of the food. To counteract the dulling effects of altitude, chefs working with airlines tend to add extra salt and sugar to their recipes. While it might seem over-seasoned on the ground, these adjustments make the food palatable when served in the air. And then there is umami, the savory taste found in foods like tomatoes, mushrooms, and soy sauce. Umami-rich dishes fare better at high altitudes because their flavors remain robust, even when other tastes fade. Ever wondered why tomato juice is so popular on flights? It's because its umami flavor profile holds up well against the cabin's sensory challenges. But food is only one part of the equation. Presentation matters too. Airlines have started paying closer attention to how meals are packaged and plated. Some experiment with color schemes to make meals visually appealing, while others use specially designed utensils and trays to enhance the dining experience. Even the shape of the cutlery can make a difference in how we perceive flavors. Of course, not all airlines succeed in delivering a satisfying meal. Take a moment to think about my recent video, Air Peace, Nigeria's Turbulent Airline Exposed. Among the many issues we discussed, their in-flight service or lack thereof was a glaring point. If you haven't seen that video, it's a must-watch for anyone curious about the realities of air travel in Nigeria. So you can check here for the link to that video. So back to our story. The decline of in-flight dining can be traced to the rise of budget airlines and cost-cutting measures. In the golden age of aviation, airlines spared no expense to impress their passengers. But as air travel became more accessible, the focus shifted to efficiency and profitability. The oil crisis of the 1970s marked a turning point, forcing airlines to rethink their approach to meals. Today and typically, economy class meal is designed to be affordable, easy to store, and quick to serve qualities that don't always align with great taste. Still, some airlines have managed to make in-flight dining a highlight. Emirates, for example, offers multi-course meals, even in economy, while Singapore Airlines collaborates with renowned chefs to create exclusive menus. These airlines understand that food isn't just about sustenance. It's a way to differentiate their brand and create memorable experiences for passengers. As someone who spent countless hours analyzing the aviation industry, I've come to appreciate the complexity of serving meals at 35,000 feet. It's not just about feeding passengers, it's about overcoming scientific logistical, and economic challenges to deliver anything that resembles a decent meal. So the next time you're on a flight and your meal doesn't quite hit the mark, remember the incredible efforts that went into putting it on your tray. So before we wrap up, let me remind you that there's always a more to explore here on Flight Realities. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the science and history of airplane food, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. So this is Joseph Kabulu signing off with a hearty thanks for joining me today. So until next time, safe travels and happy flying. It's goodbye.